Hi everybody, I'm Chiara and this is Fit. So Fit started more than 1 year ago as an idea because the main point that we got and it was really touching for us was this data. One out of 3 kids in the US is obese. And so we started wondering why and what's behind that, and we figured out that the main reason is because of the lack of physical activity. So basically 90% of kids in the US are saying that they prefer to play indoor, so playing a video game, instead of going out and play with friends outdoor. And so we figured out what we wanted to do was to encourage children to be more active, playing with the 2 main leverage that we have with kids, which is they like to play and they like technology. And so given that, the solution that we started designing is a digital platform for companies, for organizations that can link kids with healthy habits with a playful system, so with a reward-based system. So given that, we have Calvin. So Calvin is 10 years old. He goes to school and he got a wearable device, he got a mobile application, and so you can see how much he moves and how much he sleeps, so if he sleeps enough, so if he's well rested, and he can see everything in the mobile app, but he's not alone. So basically he's part of a team. The team are in the class or across different classes, and they have challenges as a team. They have goals to reach, they have prompts, they have chats. So basically there is an interaction between this kind of around this kind of behavior inside the team. And so the team get coins based on their positive behaviors, and they can see the scoreboard, so how the other teams are placed, for example, what they're doing, how they can improve. And with these coins, what they get some rewards. And rewards are outdoor experiences. So we're talking about going to a museum with your family, or go trekking with your family or with your peers. And so basically we have 3 parts of the system, of the model. The first one is composed by family and schools, because it's our entry point to kids. And for a family or for a school, this is a way to promote a peer-to-peer connection and interaction, also to get access to data in order to see how the kid is behaving and how it can improve, and also to get access to benefits and so to the reward. But then we have who is providing the benefits, so the museum in this example, that in this way is placing their product and their service in order to promote them and to access or to upsell, because they're going to have access to the family as well. And finally we have big companies. So what we have been discovering so far is that these big organizations focused on kids are struggling to innovate around kids, to know more about their target customers, and to make an impact on these customers, because they want to reposition it themselves, and so they are investing in doing something good and know more about kids. And this is the main entry point for the flow of revenues, obviously. So as a quick example, we put there Nestle, because the main potential client we are talking with, and Nestle is looking for a way to create an impact on kids and show to kids and family that they care. So we get access to local schools where we place this kind of service and the product, and so the kids run the system, so they play and they have fun and they move more. At the end, we bring families and kids to the Exploratorium in San Francisco in this case, but so to have this kind of experience all together. So basically the target market is mostly related to the kids industry, because all these big brands who are focusing on kids want to be deeper and deeper involved in their users and know more about that and position themselves as a good company who's doing something good for the target. And so how we can arrive there. So as what happened, we started just selecting 2 behaviors that were really impactful in the healthiness of kids, so movement and sleep. We decided that we put a goal, which is research based. We need 10,000 steps a day. We need 7 hours sleep a day, and then we designed a little game around these behaviors. We launched an MVP. We got some traction in a couple of companies just to have both in Italy and the US, and Italian originally. And so just to have some traction to see how the interaction works with the system. And so we got a lot of learnings, especially on how it's crucial to work on social behaviors. So like the fact of having all together, working in teams, being the family involved, have the school involved, and so like work like in a social perspective. So next step is now that we are talking with the possible new client, which is Nestle, start a kids user-centered design in order to have a new MVP, to get new traction, and so to have something by the end of the year which is solid and can be scaled. So what we're looking for right now, we are looking to fill all these three pillars. So we are looking for families and schools to be like that we wanna involve in the system. We are looking for like companies that can provide this experience. We are looking for kids, for a brand which are focused on kids that are interested in doing something with kids and to create an impact through our system. And obviously, fourth point I will add, we are looking for like any kind of organization or impact investment firm who is interested in creating an impact on this kind of target, so kids. And yeah, so like the team is I'm Chiara, I'm Italian, I'm pretty new in town, and I have a business background. With me there is Melanie from Sacramento. She is more in business and user-centered design. Then we have Calvin, which is our tech guy, and we have Caroline, which is an amazing interaction designer. Thank you very much.
All right, so for those of you who haven't been here before, we have now Q&A, probably 15 to 20 minutes, depending on how many questions we have. But we start every Q&A with the question of what can we as a community do for you? So you already kind of said some things, but if you want to elaborate, now's a great time to do that. And then we'll open it up to the audience for questions, feedback, comments, anything that you guys want to talk about. So I'll let you address that question first.
So yeah, as I was saying, basically we had the first interactions, having like a little bit of traction, a little bit of more understanding about like how the user is interacting with the system. So now we are at the stage where we need to fill every part of the model, and so we are looking for more schools and families in order to have more users to test with. We are looking obviously for like companies who are providing services and experiences for kids. So we are talking about museums, we are talking about trips, we are talking about any kind of experience that can interact with kids and family. And obviously we are looking for clients. So we are looking for companies who are struggling with this problem, as like Nestle is validating that. So like a company who is looking to pivoting their brand in order to be more present with the audience or with kids and family, to show what's the impact that the company can do with this audience.
Great. Any questions, comments from the audience?
I have a question. Your product being used now?
Yeah.
And what geographic area is it?
We had this couple of interaction in Italy and here in San Francisco. It has been like specifically in a daily base with adults in order to see what's the feedback also from like a parent point of view, I would say. And we had a couple of tests in Italy with kids, with schools. And then we were part of like an hackathon in San Francisco, where like we got the chance to make kids. It was focused on kids, the hackathon, so to make kids interact with the system and see how to play with each other. And so in the graph with like the 5 steps, the 5 step about the 5th one about the learnings is like the result of all that. So basically during all this first phase, we are getting a lot of like validation learnings and warnings. And so this is like the push for the next interaction, so that all the learnings can be capitalized and do something cool.
So what age do you guys, for kids, does it start?
This starts around 8 years old, so I would say like starting from 8 to 12, 15 maximum, especially because we are talking about technology. So like going too young, they do not have access to a mobile phone, for example. So this is something to take into account. And we saw, like the research showed that there is a certain range of age where kids are like, where the impact you can make in changing the behaviors is bigger, because then the behavior will stick. And so basically it's starting from 8 to like 12, 14.
So the reason why I ask, and stick with me here, I think one of the companies you may want to to approach. I think it's great that Nestle is trying to pivot, but if you build in a nutrition component to this, which you probably should, be the whole picture, they may be weary. They're the largest food company in the U.S., and half of their ingredients are, you're not going to want to say don't use these, right? So to make them your biggest ally may create more obstacles than solutions down the road. Somebody you might want to approach is Google, because 8 years old, a barrier you're going to have is an 8-year-old being able to have their own phone in many parts of the U.S. So their moonshots are life science at Google, and they're also happen to be in the telecom and smartphone industry. They may be willing to work with you on a low price solution just for this alone, creating something just for kids. And also, they are very big about getting into the educational space with children to create that affinity, so down the road, when they're older, they want to buy Google products.
Yeah.
This is a great way for them to achieve that. So it's in the Bay Area. It's a lot closer to the Nestle headquarters, and I think they would actually have less of a conflict of interest in terms of the nutrition component if you ever so decided to build that in.
Okay, thank you.
One thing that I would just add kind of to that is I have a 9-year-old son, and at school, before they, when they first get there, they kind of do these walks around the play yard, and that just kind of gets them warmed up and allows them to do a little bit of activity aside from playing on the monkey bars and all that kind of stuff. But then they also do it halfway through the day too, just to keep warm and stay active. And so if there was a way for the teacher, because each time they go by, they either get a tally mark or they get something that records it. So if the teacher could, go in and log their hours, or teach the kids how to go in and log, how many steps they're taking, that might be another approach. I know it's not really that advanced on the technology side, but a way for them, because a lot of the 9-year-olds don't have smartphones or watches or anything like that. So a way for them to, develop their team and still compete and stuff as well.
Okay, thank you.
Have you looked at integrating this into kind of the world of microtransactions when it comes to gaming? I know the purpose is to get them away from that stuff, but at the same time, they're still going to do it on some level. And there's a startup called Fitcraft that I saw a little bit ago that they actually integrate with Minecraft. And so they incentivize kids to go out and they integrate with Fitbit and some other fitness trackers. So the more they work, the more points and incentives they get for the game. So it's replaced kind of the microtransaction with activity.
Yeah.
Have you guys looked at that at all, or?
We did, yeah. I agree that the challenge is using technology to push kids outside of technology.
Right.
And so there is a limit where you cannot push too hard, I guess. But it's something that we are exploring for sure, because there is space there and kids love to play with these kind of games. So thank you.
Sorry.
I think it'd be a great strategy to get kids on your side, to tell their parents that they want to do feet out, but they need their parents to buy a phone for them.
Purchasing power is in the family.
Have you considered, instead of just organizations and museums, there's a lot of homeschooling, churches, that kind of stuff where they're already at home and you want to encourage them to get out, and this might be a tool for them. So homeschooling is something that happens. I'm not sure if it happens a lot, but I know they struggle getting their kids out and about and getting interactive with other kids because they're always home with their parents. So this might be something we want to look into.
That's actually, can I piggyback on that real quick? That's actually a really good idea. I worked at a nonprofit where the homeschool group, which is a significant number of kids nationwide, would have to go to this gym to get hours to go towards their PE hours. So this could be a nice stepping stone and a branch out for them. So you want to look at homefires.org is the national publication for homeschool.
Yeah, I have 3 comments. One is advisors. You showed the setup of who people are in the organization, but you have any advisors that are like 8, 9, or 10 years old?
That's actually good.
Oh, okay, no.
So I mean, in terms of I mean, yeah, you can test them and that sort of thing, but if you have a 8 or 9 or like my nephew is 8 years old and you can't shut the guy up. So I mean, he would be a perfect guy to be on your advisory board. So that's the first one. The second one had to do with, as you may know, the First Lady of the United States, the current one, has some initiatives about moving. So it seems to me that there may be a tie-in with a government program that may be able to link to your app. And the third one has to do with we were talking earlier about Nestle and Google, and I thought the thing I kept thinking about when we first started was this would be a perfect opportunity for electronic cigarette manufacturer to get in there, obviously. So I'm wondering, do you have any sort of barriers on who you would not work with?
No, really. If the value that we offer is this one. So when he was saying about all the issues that there are with Nestle products, I mean, there are issues with a lot of companies and what the companies are doing, but that's why they have a huge budget and a huge need for trying to do something good. So as soon as you have their interest and their budget in order to create this impact, like there is nothing bad in what your original business is doing. If it makes sense, like.
I understand.
Just to piggyback on kind of the chain that's going around here, what, besides schools, have you explored other kind of distribution channels, right? Schools are complicated, right? Because there's a long lead time. You have to get approval from like 10 different people. It sounds like you didn't go into too much detail, but it sounds like, this is an advertising kind of based play a little bit, right? It wasn't 100% clear, so maybe you could clarify that at the end of the question. But like, if there's any kind of branding for a company, that adds a level of complexity with schools, right? Because they won't allow e-cigarettes, obviously, right? But they may, there might be issues with Nestle if they're, just like Pat was saying, there's a conflict of interest between, getting people out and being nutritious and and then that, like, schools will be more worried about that kind of thing. So my question was, can you elaborate a little bit more on actually how you're monetizing it? Have you thought about other, ways of, direct to family or direct to parents may be a better avenue to do it, especially since there's this component of another, knock on schools is if not everyone has a cell phone, you're gonna have to deal with how to get around that because there's this equal opportunity thing that they're not gonna be able to back off from. So there are like 4 questions in there. I'm not even sure what they are anymore. Some comments. Maybe start with elaborating on the business model a little bit more, if you wouldn't mind.
So all the system is leading the user, so the kid, to get rewards which are not provided by Nestle. So the rewards are provided by in our example was like the exploratorium. So like it's not that we are placing Nestle product here. What the placing product service is offered to someone else who is already focused on kids, and in this way we give to them a channel to the whole family.
So so Nestle gives you money just to, how do you basically give them recognition for what they're doing then?
They can, it's branding for them, so like that brand could be there, and should be there, but they are not providing any kind of product, exact product there. And it's basically the direction that these companies are going right now. Like they want to create an impact, they want to do something which is outside their original business, and so they don't care about putting Nesquik in the hands of the kid. It is not the purpose of the whole thing. And in terms of revenue channels, these companies are the first ones seeing the value so far out of it, because they can interact with their target audience with a totally different approach. So it's not that I'm selling Nesquik to you, but I'm providing to you a service that allow your kids or allow you as a kid to do this and that. So there is a value there, which is in branding, but it's also about learning deeply who is your customer and interact with your customer in a different way.
Okay. Any other questions? Don't be shy.
Please.
It's not a question, it's an idea. So you know that apps where like the kids have to do certain things to keep their kitten or puppy alive? So that would be cool to use that, like they have to do a certain amount of exercise to keep, I don't know, themselves alive. Maybe they have a creature or
So
something
morbid.
like that.
Okay, thank you.
I just wanted to ask about the technology side. You said that, I think you mentioned Fitbit and all that. Is it able to connect with all?
So far we started with like 3,
Okay.
and the idea is like to build something which is like, it can be scaled, and so like through API you can interact with different kind of trackers.
Sure.
Also because I talk with kids, there are like, the range of trackers is a little bit wider, because there are just also trackers just for kids, for example.
Sure.
And we tried with like an unbranded device, just to see how it works if we bring everything. So something which is unbranded and just like feed is providing both the device to you. So like, we are doing some tests, but like it's not really a pain. Like it's really easy to handle, because like they have open API, and as soon as you have a platform, you can log in whatever you want.
And I guess my follow-up question is there a way to detect like fake movement? Because my cousin has a tracker, and his wife wants him to walk an X amount, so he attaches it to his bike tire and just spins it around until he gets to that amount, and then he's like, "Oh, I'm done." You know, like, is there?
Or 3 million steps today.
Yeah. I think it's a positive thing, because you are thinking about that, you are thinking to cheat the system. At the very end, you are doing what you are supposed to do, because anyway, you get the process, and you get to have the reward with your family, and everyone is happy.
Have you thought about getting into more like Nike or Adidas, or like, you know, the shoe manufacturers that are trying to get into mixing tech with everyday life?
Also, like all the wearable and tracking part is something that like I'm really on it, and this is not the focus. I mean, like even the platform, you can tap in different kind of input. There right now are like 3 trackers, but in the future it could be 100 different, like starting from a band to a shoe, or like a sensor that you put everywhere basically. So it's something that we are working on, and the industry is growing, and the more it grows, and the more like for us it's easy to just plug in. Yeah.
So I wanted to say, very cool product and service, and very great cause.
Thank you.
Yeah, I like the idea. One last comment. If this is geared toward children, your logo is very cool and very sophisticated. You might want to make it a little more playful to appeal to an 8-year-old's eye.
Yeah.
So,
We're gonna do it with the new advisor.
yeah. It's very nice. It's very nice though, but as an 8-year-old, I might be more attracted to something a little bit
Okay.
playful.
Thank you.
All right, that's all we got time for.
Thank you.
Very much.